Well, tomorrow marks 2 weeks since the shocking murders of four University of Idaho students stabbed to death in their sleep. And there is still no suspect, no murder weapon believed to be a fixed blade knife. We know that investigators are poring over more than 260 digital submissions of photos and videos from the public sent to an FBI link. And here to give us some perspective on this case, Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, always good to see you. Thank you for being on the show.
Good to see you too, Natasha. Thank you.
And we know that investigators say that they have not ruled out more than one attacker. And the father of Kaylee quoted as saying that the killer was sloppy, that they left behind a mess of evidence. If this is the case, can you give us some insight into why we don't have a suspect yet?
So I think that that's a good question. I think the reality is we may actually have a suspect. However, law enforcement wants to ensure that they have all of the evidence in place because to Kaylee's father's point, there is a lot of evidence and there is a lot of leads that they have. And the reality is it takes a long time to comb through all of that forensic evidence, no matter how high profile this case is. You have biological evidence, you have digital evidence, you have all of that evidence that has to be poured through and has to be done so systematically. So I obviously do not know if they actually have a suspect, but law enforcement may have their sights set on someone at this point.
Interesting. And the Idaho State Police quoted as saying that there does not appear to be any forced entry. What do you make of this?
So I make several things about that as a former college student myself and as a college professor now. I think a lot of times we take safety for granted, and a lot of times we leave doors open at all hours of the night. I don't necessarily know that that was unusual in this place. From what I understand from interviews that I've seen, this was sort of your typical college, I guess, party house, if you will, and people came in and out really at all hours of the night. And so I suspect that whomever came in entered on sort of that second floor or the first floor, I guess, if you're looking at ground level, first floor and then second floor, through that sliding glass door that you see a lot of times in the news clips. And so I don't make too much of it in that many people do not lock their doors.
Yeah, and we know that the FBI, when asking for the public's help, mentioned two locations they're particularly interested in, downtown Moscow and then the Sigma Chi house as well. Can you tell us what type of evidence would be on this digital link and what specifically are they going to be looking for as they comb through those files?
So what that sounds to me is that the FBI is actually working backwards, which makes a whole lot of sense, retracing movements backwards from when they entered the home, from when the victims entered the home, to where they really spent sort of the last hours of their evening. So really what they're looking for is Ring doorbell cameras. And to take that one step farther, they're not just looking at the Sigma Chi house or just at a specific place in downtown Moscow. They are probably looking at Ring cameras throughout the location, leading them all the way back to the house where the murder happened. So that way they can see what cars are coming in and out, what people are coming out in and out on foot. I mean, we have to remember folks who just lived a baseball throw, away from this house said that they didn't hear anything. And so I really think that digital evidence is going to be very critical in retracing the killer's steps backwards.
Right, and it's not just this digital evidence. We know investigators have more than 1,000 tips, Idaho's governor committing more than $1 million to the investigation, and 45 FBI agents, more than 45 on the case. So as you are tracking this case so far, is there anything in particular that stands out to you in this moment in time that you think requires more investigation?
Sure. One of the things that I sort of heard mentioned today was from the coroner, and that all of the victims were not necessarily in bed when they were attacked, and all of the victims were not necessarily on their respective floors in the rooms that they slept in. And so I would be interested in terms of following up a little bit more in regards to that. For example, I don't think that this was some kind of a burglary. The killer obviously had intent, and really what's coming more and more, I think, to a head here is that there was some kind of target involved in that. The killer entered in on that first floor, then went up to the second floor. We know that 2 victims were found on the second floor, 2 victims were found on the first floor, and then the 2 on the ground floor were alive. And I think that is interesting, and that means that someone had to walk up those stairs to intentionally put themselves out there to be potentially caught or to make a noise to cause someone to stir, to look for someone. And so I would really want to know know who was on those floors, what were they doing, who were they texting and communicating with, and what were their movements like.
Yeah, absolutely. Always appreciate the context and insight. Tracy Walder, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.